this is, okay, we talked about like the evolution of extract making. This is a crazy complicated one. This is when you get into the upper levels of extract making because it's a blend of an infusion and another. So we're going to talk about caramel, apple, vanilla. It's on page 102 of The Art of Extract Making. We started this one in October. So it's been sitting now for 2 months, right? Yes. And it's time to do our first change out of apples, among other things. Yes.
Well, and you're going to remove the big chunks of caramel. If you can see here, you know, this is 2 months here, and they're still quite big. You know, the chunks are still kind of big there, and so you want to get rid of some of that. If you don't, and you leave this in, this is, you know, we say that extracts are very forgiving. This is one that isn't as forgiving. If you leave those huge chunks in there, it will absorb all of your alcohol. One time I forgot about it, and it was almost solid. It just kept absorbing and absorbing and absorbing all the alcohol. And so you want to make sure you get those big chunks out at the 2 month mark. And oftentimes I have noticed that, and if you can see, it's kind of like a thick, what would you call that?
Well, it just depends what part you're looking at, because now as you're pouring it out, it's not thick and it's very fluid. A lot of those caramels that were sitting up on top, you know, some people would say, well, if you open it up every week or so and you push it down and you stir it around, they would maybe, you know, they would dissolve a little faster. We like to just kind of set it and forget it because we've got so many extracts that we're working on all the time.
Well, and I've done that.
Yep.
I'll check on it because I want to make sure that everything is submerged.
Exactly.
And so, but in 2 months, it's, you know,
there's always two or three or four on top.
Chunks, but it's a thicker, it's definitely a thicker extract. You're going to want to put this through a very fine filter to get that beautiful amber color, because it really doesn't look very appetizing the way it is now.
Well, those of you that will recall, we also use the caramel squares in our peach extract and have, you know, kind of a similar experience. And what you do is you put them in. We love the Chemex. The Chemex is kind of the perfect setup for these because it filters nicely. It's already starting, and it allows all that moisture to come through. The problem is it takes some time. So in this case, this is change out number 1. And so our goal here is to remove the final chunks of caramel, any of the cubes that you see, like big chunks that haven't fully dissolved. Mm-hmm. We're going to take those out. And then we're also removing all of the apples.
Yes.
Correct? Mm-hmm. And putting new apples in.
We're going to put another half of a cup of apples. Let me make sure that's right. It's hard to keep track of all these different recipes.
I know we have our cheat sheets in front of us when we're doing 5 in a night. So we'll be adding another half cup of apples. Now, just as we did with the peach caramel, we won't be able to finish this one in the live. We have to let it sit and drip, and we'll kind of show the update towards the end.
And it does take time. I do want to separate this just so you can kind of see the different ingredients. You know, you've got the apples in here, and if I pull these out separate, sometimes it will go down quicker. Mm-hmm. There have been a couple times that I had to change out the paper because it gets clogged by all of the ingredients. That happens sometimes.
And the apples also absorb.
The apples are absorbing a lot. So there's plenty of juice still in these apples here that I'm pushed down. And then also we're going to, of course, put the vanilla back in, but we're going to put new, fresh apples in.
Yep. And so you can see the dripping now is kind of picking up pace. We're going to press all of these down, right, and get more juice out of the apples, more juice out of the vanilla beans, everything that's been absorbed. This now is almost entirely liquid.
Which, if you do this, it goes through a little bit faster.
In fact, let's maybe slide this over just a little bit because I want to show them what they're looking at here. Now you can kind of stir that around there. You see that there's all of our finished solution right there. And so now we're just letting it go through. It's going to filter out the big clumps of caramel. It's going to filter out, you know, any particles, anything else that's, you know, in there. And it's going to give you, because we're using this kind of filter, it's going to give you a really clear, beautiful, kind of a caramel, amberish color.
Yeah.
Unfinished extract that is fun to gift, fun to taste, and it looks beautiful when it's done. It just takes time. This is one that
It
takes
does
time.
take time. And so you can use, a potato masher if you want to just
Let's maybe
push
go over the
down.
camera there again, Did.
On some of the apples. I kind of do this and then I'll let it sit for a bit and then I'll come back to it. It does take time, this one. And because of the caramel in the Chemex, you may have to change out the filter depending on how much of the caramel kind of will clog it sometimes.
Mm-hmm. So you just keep an eye on it. But the goal, obviously, is we want all that liquid in the Chemex. We're trying to get it through, and it's already starting. And the color, I don't want to knock this loose, but the color's beautiful.
It is.
Yes.
Rinsing that out for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to put the vanilla back in, and then we're going to add a half a cup of new fresh apple. We can go ahead and put that in the jar. I am not going to worry about a little bit of caramel that I have on the vanilla beans because I can, you could wash them off if you want now, or you can just decide and do your filter at the second change out. And then that way, all of the caramel will be out and it'll be completely clear.
So we actually
that amber color.
Yeah, this was a discussion we had before the live. This was kind of a game time decision that we were making, right? Is when do we want to do the filter? So the book calls for one filter. We got to pass it through the filter one time, and it's to clean out all the caramel and to get kind of a really clean extract solution. And so, like Jill just said, you can do it now. You can do it in another 2 months after the next one. We're doing it now just because it's sooner, it's earlier. We didn't want to let the caramel sit. So we recommend in our book in the first 2 months, but we have had instances where if you go 4 months, it works just fine. What you don't want to do is just put it on the shelf and leave it for a year. Right?
Yes, and you don't want to leave the big clumps of caramel. You want to take most of it out. If you have just a little bit left in there, it's going to be fine. And then you'll do your final filter at the end. Yep.
And this is one too that you can certainly top off if you need to top off. We use vodka for this one, and so we're adding more oranges. But again, the challenge on this is it's going to take a few hours for the Chemex to do its thing before we can put the extract back in the jar, right?
Yeah, and I'll just keep kind of pushing down on the apples ever so often, and then you can kind of already see it. I don't know, can you see?
You can kind of see it there, but yeah.
Yeah, it looks the same as the stuff that's in the Chemex. So I'll add that to it when I'm done with the apples.
Meaning we'll pour it in the Chemex and we'll just let it all come through.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so now I've got my half a cup of apples, and these are dehydrated, and I kind of just fill a half a cup here. And I push them. Depending on the size of your apples, mine fit absolutely perfect in here, so I don't have to worry. They just fit.
They just fit perfect.
But if you have bigger apples, you might have to cut them up. So I just push it down, and that's half a cup of apples. And then I'm going to put it in here on top of my vanilla. Yeah. And then I'll wait and see how this turns out here.
Yep. So as soon as that's done with its job, we pour it over the top. We'll lose some. We've talked about topping off and the principles of topping off in the past. Anytime you're adding fresh ingredients, if you choose, it's an opportunity to top off. And the reason it's an opportunity is because you've got new fresh ingredients that haven't been extracted yet. And so by topping off, you're going to be extracting the new ingredients so you can. Now, other people say, no, I don't want to top off because I want it to be going back to like the whole concentration thing. I want as much concentration on that teaspoon as I can possibly get. And so it's a little bit of I call it a game time decision on what you're feeling and what you're tasting as to whether you choose to top off or not to top off. Whenever you add fresh ingredients, there's an opportunity to top off if you want. Fresh, let me clarify, when you add fresh dry ingredients, there's an opportunity to top off. Well, even when you add fresh wet ingredients, you just have to keep the dilution rate in mind because there's new things in there that are being extracted, so you can add new alcohol if you want.
This is the one extract that you will have to top off because all of that alcohol that's in the apples, and the caramel, it absorbs, and you cannot get that 8 ounces back.
No, you're not going to get the 8 ounces.
Nowhere near
it's
the
whether,
8 ounces. You might get sometimes a couple times.
Yeah.
I've gotten like 6.5.
right.
Right. And so this is one of those that, you know, you will have to top off on this one.
Assuming that you want to get 8 ounces.
Yeah.
If you want just the super concentrated, fewer ounces, you can certainly do that.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm poorly trying to make, that you're definitely going to lose some of the spirit in the fruits, for sure. Yep. Hopefully that makes sense.
This is the one that you'll lose the most.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Those apples just love it. Well, the pineapple loses. The pineapple loses a lot as well. That was another one. The dried pineapple. That's another one that kind of drinks it all up. And again, game time decision. If you're trying to get the exactly 8 ounces, you're going to be topping off for sure. Hopefully that helps.